Okay, we are live on YouTube, so you can start whenever you're ready.
All right. Why don't we call the meeting to order of the Board of Selectmen, our regular meeting, November 24th, 6 p.m. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, Selectwoman Nita Kincaid, Selectman Bob Carlson, Christine Diaz, Admin Finance as well. Welcome to everyone who's taken the time to attend our meeting tonight. We're thankful that you are here. We do offer on the agenda public comments on non-agenda items as a first item on the agenda. We respectfully ask that comments are limited to 2 minutes in respect for everyone's time. We also will allow public comments on the agenda items as we go through the agenda, and the same rules apply. With that being said, are there any public comments on non-agenda items? If you do have a comment, you simply need to hit the raised hand feature, and then we'll allow you to talk on that. And if you're on the phone, it's *6, I think, to unmute yourself. I do have a couple of blue hands for non-agenda items. First is Brett Mastriani. Go ahead, Brett.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I just wanted to address, just as we round out the year, just some housekeeping questions that I have regarding, one, the moving of the voting location, which I think it was great at the old middle school, but I didn't know if you guys are going to officially vote on it per the state ordinance on it, because it allowed you to move it temporarily, but to permanently move it, you have to vote. The legislative body has to vote to move that. So I didn't know if that was something set up. And then I have another question. I don't know if you want to address one and then the next.
You can just ask, you can just make your comments, Brett, and certainly we'll discuss them as a board as we feel appropriate. So what's your second comment?
The second one was regarding the elementary school. And since the Board of Ed decided not to take up the name change to Wheeler Elementary, I mentioned it to a few of the members on the Board of Ed, and they referred me back to the town asking about the signage, whether that would somehow, if there was a way to alter that or change that sign as you enter Wheeler, or as you enter the elementary school where it says Wheeler Elementary, just before it gets too far down the path and we forget about it. Those are my two comments, but thanks for the time.
Thank you, Brett. I can tell you that the sign for the school has not been forgotten. And first of all, that sign was made, that was done not purposely. I think it went through a lot of people and they just ended up, unfortunately, not having the correct name. It said, for those that are not familiar, it says when you walk into the school, it says Wheeler Elementary School. It doesn't say North Stonington Elementary School. So that actually is something that we're looking to repair, and we're just kind of waiting for the final bills to come in on the school modernization initiative. And I think that is something that should be able to be taken up. I actually got some pricing for replacement, so that won't be forgotten. It's just, I think we're just waiting for all the bills to kind of settle out. So I do have that answer. As far as your other comment, so that's something we'll talk about. We can talk about as a board. Thank you. Brian R., I assume that's Brian Rathman. You're recognized.
Hello.
Hi, Brian.
I just had a question. I saw it in the paper with North Stonington, and I'm not sure if this is the same steep grant that you're going to talk about in 3, but it was about the milling and pavement of Kingswood and Cedar Ridge neighborhoods. And it says North Stonington is matching 175. Well, a match to me would have been 126,860. But I see all the other towns are way a lot lower than that. And I was just wondering, how come we're so high on that?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, we will talk about that in the next agenda item, but I did talk about that when we brought this forward before. We didn't have, so we were planning on putting 175, and so that's what we wrote down. That was money we already were planning on spending. For the match, we didn't have to match. It just so happens the other towns, that's how much money they were putting towards their project. So it wasn't like a true matching situation. Could have put 0 down, And I think we would have still gotten the grant, but in the grant writing world, you know, the more you put down, the better it looks. So we just wanted to assure that we were able to get our maximum amount from the state. The amount of grant we're getting for steep is the maximum amount based on the calculation that the state put forward that our town could receive. We couldn't receive any more through this steep grant process than we did receive. And so that money that we are putting forward was money we had already intended to put on those roads. So it's not, I know it looks, the way the newspaper wrote the article, it looks like we're having to put in like more money than other towns. But the truth of the matter is we were putting that money down anyway. I think probably just like other towns were putting down the money that was shown there. So it's kind of like misleading in the newspaper. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I was just wondering because will there be any money left over from all that money for the town? Or will they use up that whole amount, the 126, 860 and 175?
We'll use up the whole amount.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. Any other public comments on non-agenda items?
Oh,
You're not public. Sorry. You can speak though as a Board of Selectmen member. Did you want to add an agenda item, Nita?
I was just going to ask a question, which was, are we going to have a Christmas tree at the Village Green?
Why don't we add an agenda item to talk about that topic, okay? So why don't we propose to add an agenda item number 10A or 10C, I guess. We'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Just want to try to stick to it. I'll make the motion to add agenda item 10C, holiday preparations.
Second that motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3. Executive Order 7 JJ items for discussion, steep grant additional appropriation. So just for those who may not be familiar, under the governor's executive orders, there's certain things that we can take up as a Board of Selectmen based on need and acting as the legislative body for the town. We have chosen as a board to not do this unless it's like blatantly obvious that it's something that's the town would want to do. We're not trying to, we would rather send things to town meeting. It is going to be more complicated to send things to town meeting just on the logistics and the complexities of the COVID situation and trying to keep people safe, especially with cases on the rise. So this would be an item that we would like to send to a town meeting where folks would have the ability to certainly talk, offer comment, and we'll take their input. But this particular item is very simply for us to grant us the ability to spend the money from the steep grant. So it's basically allowing us to spend free money. It shouldn't be anything that's terribly controversial. We were very fortunate to receive a steep grant. We haven't received one in our tenure as a board. The last one I think was probably obtained even prior to the first selectman being here, but was used probably in 2016 or 17. So the state did make certain steep grant funds available, and they had it proportionally based on a calculation per town basis, and we were able to get the maximum amount that was allowable to us of that 126,000 that was referenced in the public comments prior. So what we'd like to do is, or what's being proposed to do is to take this to a town meeting of the Board of Selectmen where the public would have an opportunity to speak on it, and then we would look to vote on it. So I have a call for the town meeting.
can I just say one thing?
Yeah, I was going to call the town meeting and just bring it up for discussion. Did you want to say something before I brought the motion forward?
I just wanted to say that one of the stipulations with the Executive Order 7JJ is that things need to be timely, and this needs to be approved and sent back to the state by December 9th. So that's the other reason that it's being done in this fashion rather than as a town meeting.
Thank you, Christine. So let me read the call and then we can motion it and then we can discuss it if there's any further discussion. The call would read, in accordance with the governor's executive order 7JJ, a regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen shall be held at the following location on the date and time indicated for the purposes of transacting the business set forth below. The location would be a virtual meeting via Zoom. Date December 8th, so it would be the night of our normal Selectmen's meeting, 6 p.m. And there'll be a call-in information that'll be referenced, the Zoom number and the meeting ID. And it says, shall the town of North Stonington, as approved by the Board of Finance, approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $126,860 for milling and paving Kingswood and Cedar Ridge neighborhoods through steep grant funds. This will take place at a regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen, and other agenda items will be discussed. So I'd motion that forward, or if somebody wants to motion that forward.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so any discussion on it?
So I'm confused because I thought Christine just added that this was timely. We had to get this in by December 9th. And that's why we're doing this in this fashion. Are you saying that on the December 8th meeting, we'll count that almost like a town meeting and vote on it that night after hearing comment by the public, or?
Yes.
All right. So with that said, and that's fine. I don't think anyone can argue that we're going to spend free money that we got from the state. That would make no sense to argue that. However, there was a comment by Brian earlier, and I just want to back up a bit. So the 175 matching grant, we know that was a line item in the budget. It was already approved by the town for road maintenance and repair, I believe. Christine, you probably know the line number off the top of your head, but it's a 175. So the town used that money to help put us in a good position to get our steep grant. So that's great. It doesn't mean we're spending it, but your answer to Brian just then is, I think he said, will we spend the whole 175? And I think your answer was yes.
No, that's not, he said, will we spend the whole 126?
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we're not going to spend the whole 175 unless we had to for some reason, correct? Because even though it's in the line item, we didn't expect to get a steep grant, but we got one. And we know we wanted to work on the roads, and we knew we as a board took 108,000 out of the budget. So 108,000 still leaves roughly $20,000 of steep grant. We got more than what we had in the budget to fix the roads anyway that we took out just to help with the Board of Finance balancing the budget. So I guess I think what I heard was, I hope he didn't hear that, was that you said we would spend the whole 175, which means now we're spending close to $300,000 on roads this year, which is not the case. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if that's correct or it's not correct. I think we're going to try to, we have tried to put together a very fiscally conservative and responsible plan to fix these roads that, quite frankly, we should have fixed altogether. We should have bonded to fix it. They need to be fixed. They all should be fixed 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. So I think we are trying to, with the budget we have with the town in the line item, fix the roads that make sense to fix based on the budget we have. So if in highway we're able to manage our budget and those funds are for road repair, and we feel that it's appropriate based on the amount of monies that we have to spend more to do more of those roads, then we'll do that. This isn't going to do all those roads. We're still going to have roads to do. So my goal is to get those roads done as soon as possible. I think as we shook it out and we took a look at it last year or the year before, we figured, well, it's probably a 3 to 4 year project if we're trying to do this with the budgeted monies that we have, and we're not trying to bond for it or take out other loans to do the roads. So I think that, in my opinion, if we have money based on how the winter went and we have it in a correct line to do more roads in those neighborhoods, we want to get them done. I mean, so we should do them if the priorities allow for it. And I would, Donnie's not here at the meeting, but those are discussions that we often have. Yeah.
Well, I just think that we wouldn't be doing roads until the spring anyway, spring or summer. So I think that's something we need to evaluate at the time. I just want to make sure that the message wasn't out there, is just because we have it, we're gonna spend it type of thing, so.
No, I don't think anyone should ever hear that message, though I think people interpret messages differently, Bob. We've been very fiscally responsible with our budgets, at least since I've been here. We often turn over money almost every year. I think if we have budgeted monies and these roads need to be fixed, that's something that needs to be done. I hear from the people in those neighborhoods very often, and with the roads that are done in those neighborhoods, they're very, very happy with them. And it's overdue. So I don't want to send a message that we're not going to spend 175. Absolutely, we may, if the money is there and it's in the right line item, and it is. Yes, I mean, we will spend it, and we'll spend we'll spend the steep money as well, because we want to get these roads fixed. If for some reason there's other priority items that take precedence, which can often happen when you're running a town like this with the many miles of roads that we have, we have a plan. We evaluate that. I work very closely with the highway foreman, and that's part of my job. So I hope that, sends a clear message.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nita.
Mike, am I wrong? When we went into the meetings for the budget that we're in right now, we did have more money in there for roads there. And we were asked by the Board of Finance to take those out. So we were all, I would agree with you entirely. I mean, if this is extra money and it just doesn't let the roads become worse and worse in a place where everybody is living, right? I just don't see that we would want to not spend it.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I think when you look at that, I think if you're trying to look at it from the lens that I think Bob is trying to get to, and correct me if I'm wrong, we had budgeted 108,000. So we took that out. So technically we planned on spending that 175 on those roads anyway. That was part of the budget we had. So maybe there's a windfall if people think about that way of about $20,000 that we weren't thinking about. Well, in my mind, that means that maybe we can do just a little bit more of the road in those neighborhoods, because we're not getting it done with the money we have. So we're going to still have another year next fiscal year, of having to budget for these roads. I'd like to say we're going to get them completed next fiscal year. At least that would be the way I would probably budget for it. We haven't gotten that far to do that analysis yet, but we will. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any public comment on this topic? Yep, Brian Rathman, you're recognized.
Yeah, my point was that, like, when you add the two up, it's $301,860. And I didn't know if is that a job that goes out to bid, or have you got bids on it? Or I just like to know what figure we're kind of talking. I mean, because $175 isn't just a piece of nothing. I didn't know if it was just going to be spent for roads, or can that be used for something else in town?
No, it'll all be spent for roads, Brian. And it will. We have used somebody off the state bid list for the work that's been done in the neighborhoods thus far. Prior to our tenure, the prior administration had gotten somebody in there that really just hacked the roads. It was a horrible job, and such a bad job that we wouldn't even want to have them back to try to fix them. So we have taken the approach to make sure we work with someone who's on the state bid list that we know can do good work, because it's been proven through the work they've done. So that's how we've kind of gone about it. And we have pricing that's helped us determine the cost on this. So that answers your question. Is there any other comments? All right, well, hearing none on that, we have a motion on the floor and a second to move this, to call that town meeting. So all in favor of calling that town meeting? Aye. Motion carries 300.
Question, Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. We vote,
No, it's the questions after the vote.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just, so now that we're calling a town meeting, and I imagine I gotta get into town hall to sign that, correct?
You'd imagine what?
That I have to come into town hall to sign that, correct?
Yes.
The call, so I'll be ready to be signed when? Tomorrow, Friday?
Should be available tomorrow.
Okay, so I'll make sure I get by tomorrow to sign it.
Yeah,
Um,
before 12, before
If we
12.
have a town meeting, can things be added to that town meeting down the road? I noticed, like Brett said something about, and I know we haven't, it's not on the agenda, so we won't really discuss it, but talked about permanently moving the voting and things like that. Well, if things come up, will we be able to use that town meeting for multiple, or can it be just this?
No, it should be advertised for the purpose of the town meeting. So that was one thought that someone had. There's a lot of things that we need to vote on at an actual town meeting, Bob. And I would think we're going to actually probably try to have an actual town meeting, even if it's virtual, sometime early next year on some topics. So that'd be a future agenda item, and we'll look to add that to a future agenda to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be other things come up. I know we talked about sending the solar back out to bid, and there's other things that we need to talk about as a town, so that's good if we have one in the beginning of the year. Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. All right, the next item on the agenda is the number 4, the Arrow of Light Den time capsule. If there's someone that, I don't know if Beth is on this meeting. If you are, raise your hand and I'll bring you in to talk about this. And if not, I'll do my best to talk about it. So I was approached, I'm not seeing any hands go up. So I was approached by Beth Kermsey, who works with one of the Cub Scout troops, and was asked if we would be able to do a time capsule on the Hewitt property. And I said, well, I think the selectmen would love to hear about that and discuss it. So I thought it was pretty cool. I think, they're going to bury it somewhere there, that we, obviously we'd pick a spot that makes sense, based on the property. But did the selectmen have any, I don't think, I didn't talk to her enough to confirm that she would be here. So I apologize. It's maybe not her fault that she's here. Perhaps I didn't get in touch with her early enough to let her know about the meeting. But do you have any concerns, thoughts, or feedback on something like that?
I'll defer to Nita.
Well, no, I don't have a problem with it, but I would want to see where they want to put it, basically. This is for the Boy Scouts, in other words. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because the Boy Scouts, they've been great help to us, and we've been great help to them ever since 2011. So I think that would be fine. We just want to put it in a good space, like not right next to the house, let's say, or something like that. But so that's the only thing. My only thing would be to have them ask us to, have them ask them to let us know where they're going to go.
Okay.
But yeah.
We can explain to them where a good spot would be too, but that seemed to be kind of a cool place to maybe do it. Could even be down by the pavilion or something like that. But okay, so then.
Should they present to the Hewitt Farm Committee where they want to have it and what they're doing specifically?
Sure,
Yeah, I don't think that would hurt.
that would be fine.
When's
Okay.
your meeting?
Next Monday. I think that might be a little too soon.
Yeah, I'll let them know that they could reach out to the Hewitt Farm Committee and just talk about specifics. So I don't know if there's any vote necessary, but we could just take a vote since we have it on the agenda. All in favor of does somebody want to bring a motion forth to allow the Arrow of Light Den to approach Hewitt Farm Committee to bury a time capsule on the Hewitt Farm property with their direction?
So to vote is to just to allow them to approach the Hewitt Farm Committee for them to make the ultimate decision. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it doesn't need to come back to us.
Yeah. So if that was a motion, I second it.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make the motion. Bob seconds it. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 300. Was there any public comment on that? Okay. Next item is number 5, village safety actions. So I just wanted to keep this in our mirror here. We talked last week, last meeting about the speed humps, and I think we had some agreement on that. I did meet with DJ and Juliet and Donnie and looked at where the speed humps would go, and I think we have a good idea of where we would put them. The problem is the paving. We won't get them done in time for this year, but the concerns are now. So in order to try to facilitate some more action prior to next spring, because I think we could do the speed humps, once the paving operations resume and the weather's better, we could get the speed humps done, in the spring. But what I propose that we try to do right now, based on some feedback that we had gotten to try to slow some traffic down in the village, is I did meet with Donnie and we talked about putting a stop sign in to make it a 3-way stop in front of the brewery. That would definitely slow some traffic down there. I think anyone who's been down there sees, and I mean, my office is literally right here, so I see it all the time. There's a lot of people flying down the road. That will stop people at that intersection. It'll help pedestrians. And I think if we put a stop sign there, it's probably not a bad idea. There really wouldn't be anybody terribly bothered by it except town hall with traffic stopping here, and I don't think that's any problem for us. So it's not going to be a noise problem for a truck stopping in front of town hall. So it's not really residential right here. So that was one thing that I thought we could do now, and the other thing is to really just kind of reassess. We have the pedestrian walking line going down Main Street where the library is and whatnot, which I think was well received. I think we could look to do another, if there's places we could add a line for walking. There's certain areas that we just probably aren't going to be able to add it because the road is simply too narrow and we have to have at least no less than 10 feet for a car for a car there. But there are some areas we may be able to add one. So what I was going to propose tonight was that the selectmen are in favor of for adding the stop sign at the 3-way there and adding a pedestrian walk line in areas down here in the village that we feel it would be appropriate to do so. So I could assess that with the highway foreman. So that was my 2 thoughts, to try to do something now before we go through the winter without having any action done. I think in the spring we could pick up the rest of it. Go ahead, Nita.
2 questions. With regards to the 3-place sign, how does that work? I can't even visualize what a 3-way sign is going to look like. Is it going to be
So
right?
I thought you might have a question about it. So I took a picture today and I think I can just put it on the screen. You see Donnie standing there?
Yep.
All right, Donnie's standing where the stop sign would be.
Okay.
All right. So you've got a stop sign already coming down the hill. You got a stop sign that stops people as if they were driving into the brewery. And then we'd have that 3rd stop sign that would be stopping people going up going up Wyasa.
Basically a stop on the bridge.
Be a stop on the bridge.
Okay. So if they come from the from the first way in from the north, though, if that's north or whatever, what will they see going from the gas station down to there? What will they see?
They're just going to stop at the stop sign like they normally would. There's already a stop sign there.
Okay, so that stays there, and this one is
We're just adding a 3rd stop sign.
We'd be adding a 3rd stop sign. We're not going to remove any of the stop signs. It's just an effort to try to make traffic stop more, so that it's just slower. I mean, I think it's a prudent thing to do. I think it makes sense based on the feedback we got, and it's something we can do now. Versus, I want to take some action now. I don't want to wait until the spring to take any action on this because it's pretty important.
Okay. All right.
Bob, do you have any questions or comments?
I think first of all, I agree with putting a stop sign there. I think you're gonna get pushback on it because there's one in front of the antiques and accommodations at that corner. And then you're gonna have that one there, and then the other two. So I have no problem with it now. It was a temporary measure until we get these speed humps in. But I think it sends a good message to the village that the selectmen are hearing their concerns about speed, and we want to do something about it now. And because we're in the time of year where you can't do a lot of road work, it makes sense to do something to hold us off until then. But I would think that in the spring, if we do speed humps, that stop sign would probably want to come out. I just think we won't need it anymore because you'll have speed humps. So I think it's a good temporary measure. Again, I think you will get some pushback from people that go through town, but safety comes first. And I think in this particular time, safety becomes before having to stop, depending which way you're going, as many as two times. If you're coming from your office, we'll say into town, you're going to stop at the corner where the inn was, and you're going to stop again in front of the brewery. But I mean, that's what it is. And when we get the speed humps in, I think we can probably move that sign.
So you would suggest it be a temporary installation of the sign then?
I think we put it in, and I think it's going to be temporary because I think you're going to get a lot of pushback, and I think the speed humps will solve the problem, and then you'll decide that maybe we should think about taking it out. But I think it's something that's necessary to go in now, just to put a temporary stop on the problem of speeding in town. We'll see if it works.
Okay, I was going to suggest that we put it in like a permanent stop sign, but we can do it temporarily, I guess, as well. Everyone always has an opinion, as we know. I do agree with your perspective that there might be a change in opinion once the speed humps go in. In other words, if that's something that could come out, then that is possible that could be the case. So I can understand that perspective.
I think two people are confused on speed humps and speed bumps, and I know we've gone over this, but if I'm not mistaken, a speed hump, which is what I see a lot down in South County, Rhode Island, I drive over them all the time, and you can maintain a speed of 20 to 25 miles an hour without ruining your vehicle, but it makes you slow down, as opposed to a hump where you go over it 25 miles an hour, you spill in your coffee, you bite your tongue, and it's like a shock to the car and your system. So
Yeah,
we're looking to put in speed humps, not speed bumps.
That's
so
right.
people understand.
Yes, Nina?
From another perspective that I think is important, pretty soon we're going to look like we're a circus. I mean, we need to keep the beauty of the town. So if the humps, not the bumps, work, it would be really good if it was that. No question, because it's a small town and you see this signs everywhere, and
Yeah, I agree. Like I thought when I discussed this earlier that the sign coming down Rocky Hollow could go if we had speed humps rather. I feel like that's kind of actually, I think the intersection's more dangerous because of the two-way stop. I think that's a very confusing intersection. But this one here, I'm not sure whether or not that would stay or go. So I suppose that's all the more reason to do it temporarily. So we'll go with a temporary stop sign there for now then, I guess. So I'll have Donnie do that. And then what about adding the more pedestrian lanes in areas and just in the areas. So basically the white stripe that people seem to have been pretty positive about. I think there's a potential for doing that up towards maybe Rocky Hollow, possibly a stripe going out towards my office, out towards Route 2 maybe. I'd like to do one up towards Babcock. There's not enough room there, and that's a very dangerous spot. There's just not enough room. How do you guys feel about doing that to add more safety for walkers.
Like, have we got any feedback from people in the village as far as how those lines have been working? Do they see no change? Do they see a change? They feel safer walking in the village?
I have gotten that feedback. Exactly. People feel
Okay.
safer. They feel, only feedback I've gotten has been positive. They're thankful that they were put in. And, I don't think it's any hindrance. I don't think it really looks bad. I think it looks fine. It's very simple. I don't think it's hurting the character or the aesthetics of the village. And I think it's providing a level of safety for walkers. So.
Then I'm not opposed to put it in other areas then.
Nita?
I'm okay.
All right, let me open it up, if that's okay, to public comment. I'd see one, Brett has his hand up.
Mhm.
Yes, Brett?
I just want to say, I agree with Nita and Bob. I do think that once speed humps go in the village, then the stop sign seems to be unnecessary. I wondered, have you guys looked into whether if you put the stop sign on the sidewalk, does that change the width and the ADA compliance of that sidewalk? Or is it, because those are nice sidewalks. They look beautiful. They're the rock. They're not the cement, I think, at that point where you were showing. But does that change the width and the accessibility there? And if it does, is there a way to do that temporary one, maybe that's in the middle of the road? I guess you'd have to take it out and remove it every now and then, but I know certain villages have something similar.
Thanks for your comment, Brett. Well, I'll be working with the highway foreman on what's the, he's aware of what the requirements are. So thank you for that, though.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree with Bob on that. It should be temporary. But I was thinking, I'm not sure of the spot you're putting it in, because I'm trying to remember from the town parking lot, the pedestrian walkway going over to the other side, like to the town hall, is that the stop sign would be after that, right? Since the pedestrian's supposed to have the right of way, that means a car would stop before the pedestrian zone and then have to stop at the stop sign halfway in the bridge. I didn't know if that's gonna cause a bigger problem or not.
Yeah, again, we'll work with the highway foreman to make sure we're following whatever the correct protocols are for where it should go. But thank you for your comment on that.
All right.
Yes, Chokus,
Tim or Johanna?
you're recognized, Chokus. I don't know if that's Tim or Jonna. You just have to unmute.
There we go. Hi. Can you give us any details to where the speed humps will be going?
Yes, we definitely can when we get closer to that. So we put it on a map, but we're not gonna be able to do anything till the spring. So we'll just put it on we'll put it on an agenda when we're ready to get closer on that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? Okay, so I look for a motion to add the temporary stop sign on the bridge area as described, as well as pedestrian white lines in areas of the village that are appropriate based on our conversation tonight.
Mhm.
Motion that we put, need to do it? I second Nita's, if she already did it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you for that feedback, everyone. We'll get that going. Okay, so the village safety, the number 6, appointed boards and committees discussion. I wanted to talk about this to see if, basically, I think we all recognize that we've got a couple of boards and commissions that are just not active. And I think they're great people. And I think, things kind of changed, and we've talked about it in a number of meetings. And that I just think in the effort of cleaning things up a little bit, I wanted to talk to the selectmen about just kind of thanking them for their service and maybe kind of moving on from having these boards and commissions. As Jim Russell, our IT person for the town, sent an email recently that we're requiring all boards and commissions to use town email for town business now. We don't have the ability or the time to continue to deal with anyone that's trying to use their personal email for town business. It just can't happen. It's not a good practice for FOI as well. And rather than setting up some of these commissions with emails that don't have them, that they're just not really meeting, I'm thinking we might want to just, again, kind of move on. And some of these initiatives or discussions that these committees were working on are things that the selectmen have kind of taken up or could be absorbed by another committee. And I'll just tell you the committees that I was thinking about, and I'm sure we all know who they are. The Historic Village Improvement Committee, the Communications Committee, and I think the Government Structure Committee, which work has long been done, but is still listed on our website. So I think we should probably just kind of say, not that we're not moving any of those initiatives forward. Obviously, we're still working on communications, and we've met with members of the historic or the village on discussions just like we're having tonight. But those committees aren't meeting regularly. They didn't file even agendas this whole calendar year or a regular meeting calendar. And I think that we've already talked about this in a number of meetings. And of course, the Government Structure Committees, as I said, their work's long been done. But I just think they're still on the website. So I just want to kind of clean things up a little bit. I just want to have a general discussion with the selectmen on that. Go ahead, Bob.
So my thought is, we went through the trouble putting these committees together, and I think it was great at the time because there was things that were pressing. Government structure obviously was very important 3 or 4 years ago. But I think that since we did the committee, we should probably, as you said, thank those that were members of the committee. Let them know that at this time we're vacating the committee, but keeping the committee on the books as an inactive at this time. So if we feel the need to reinstate one of these committees, we already have it there. So it's just a matter of then filling the committee with appointees, with volunteers who are willing to work on it. And now we're up and running again. So I would think that if each of these committees were vacated and inactive and put on our website as an inactive committee, but it's there, we can always start it again if need be. Because I think there's going to be other committees shortly that I think of the repurposing of the school, the school modernization. There's a few that have ended their task or close to it. But rather than just totally dissolve it, just have it there as an inactive committee and there's no names. It's just a vacated committee at this point.
Anita.
The repurposing one was one that I was going to mention, and Bob, thank you for mentioning it. I'm just a little surprised about the village one, though. I mean, the village is such an important part of this, and I know it's had like 3 different names, I think, over the last 2, and even before our group came in, I think there was a smaller group that was started with Sean, I believe. It just feels to me like it's kind of a shame that we can't find a committee for that, because it's such an important part of the history in the town, and that people maybe should be, who live here, not necessarily right in the middle either, would if it was sent to them, or with regards to, are you interested in, we might get a different committee. I don't know. It feels to me like it would be too bad to lose that.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, so Nita, this is what I say about that is, if there's a committee that's vested and they disagree, if the town or the First Selectman sends them a letter saying that we're going to dissolve the committee in 30 days and vacate it and still be in the books, but it's a vacated committee. If they feel the need that they want to stay active and they can show us that they'll attend meetings and have regular meetings and file agendas like all other boards and committees, that would be fine. I'm sure that as a board, we don't want to just dissolve committees that still have a use to the town. But if they're inactive, they're not going to meetings, and we're not having meetings, then it's why bother? And, so I think if we send a letter or notification to a committee that they have 30 days to let us know whether they want to continue or not, or we'll vacate them, then that gives them the opportunity. If nobody from the village committee wants to step up, then why have it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to fault anybody there. I think, I think it's great people on all these committees. And I just think things have changed, like, for instance, Nita, you already said if you want to talk about the Historic Village Improvement Committee, that committee was started out as a sidewalk committee. That's what they started as, and that was the charge. And then when we came in, I think we kind of changed the charge a little bit with some exciting ideas. And I think it kind of went for a while, but honestly, it's almost more, our board has taken up a lot of this stuff. And so and we bring people in to help, and certainly invite people to, public's always invited to be a part of any of these discussions as we offer public comment on all these agenda items. So I think that's a fine approach. Go ahead, Bob.
I just want to clarify what I just said. So after I rehashed it in my mind when I said, if they don't want to step up, obviously all these people stepped up at one time to volunteer in the first place, and they gave their time, after work and so on to these committees. But as committees find that there's no more for them to do, or there's nothing on their agenda at the time, when I said step, I mean, come back and say, no, we want a committee to stay alive. That's all. But they've all stepped up for the town already. And I don't want anybody to misconstrue that. I didn't appreciate everything that they've already done as committee members.
So I would agree. And actually, I didn't mention the school building repurposing committee. And actually, I meant to, I wasn't sure if I was going to mention that one because I checked with them today to see, actually, I checked with the chair to see, if there was interest in them helping to get occupants in the wing that we still have to rent, if they wanted to kind of change their charge a little bit, if that was something of interest to them, I was going to bring it forward to us. It does not seem to be that there's interest there. So I also would add them to the list of ones that we would send this letter to. Because their job is basically done as far as the charge that we put forth. So there's basically the four. So I would look for, let me see if there's any public comment before I ask for any motion.
Good idea.
Okay, seeing none. I would look for a motion to send a letter letting the committees know that it's the Board of Selectmen's intention to thank them for their service, and that we would look to, we're planning on disbanding or considering their charge to be accomplished, unless we hear back from them within 30 days of an intent to continue their charge. So I think I phrased that as a decent motion. You want to make that motion, Nita?
Yes, so moved.
I will second.
Mike, do you want to name the specific committees?
Yes.
In the motion?
Yes. Yeah, the Historic Village Improvement Commission, and that'll be part of the motion if that's okay, Nita. Communications Committee, School Building Repurposing Committee, and Government Structure Committee.
Mhm.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries 3-0-0. I think that's good. Okay, go ahead, Nita. Yep.
How do you feel about, well, I guess the rest of the committees have enough going on, but I'm just wondering how many of them are meeting on a regular basis. Do we keep any look at that? It seems to me there are a few of them that aren't heavily meeting their meetings.
Honestly, there's a couple of other ones that we certainly could discuss that are, I think the idea of them, and I'll just, is something where it'd be like, if we decided to send this kind of letter to them, it might not be as popular. But you look at affordable housing, they really don't have many members anymore. I'm not saying it's not important. Is that something that could just be taken on by another committee? I mean, it's not an easy conversation to say that because it's a priority, I think, for all of us, but certainly.
I think they just started over again though, right?
They're trying.
Yeah,
They're planning on meeting this week.
That's what I thought. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you had any others in mind that you were thinking about, Nita?
I'd have to look at the list.
I mean, I
just-
look, go ahead, Christine.
I just want to let you guys know that the Emergency Services Operations Committee has sent their survey out to the local towns. So the responses are coming back. It's a Google form. They've kind of asked me to keep an eye because I have access to the Google account to see what's coming in. So they'll be getting an update from me on that after the holiday. So that committee is working towards their purpose. So.
After this holiday
Yes.
and before the Christmas
Yes.
holiday, yeah. Okay.
Monday.
That was the thing, yeah, exactly, okay.
As far as other appointed committees, I think that's the only other one that would be, but as you said, I agree. Affordable housing is, they do have a new chair. And I think they're gathering, they're regathering themselves. So I'm hopeful that, they'll get some stuff going. And I mean, we are doing like a housing plan. So there's work happening there. So that's not one that I named. But I think everyone else is meeting pretty regularly, as necessary, Nita.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on then, we'd already asked for comment on that, so we can move forward. 298 Norwich Wesley Road lease and building update. So on the lease, we did just get an email back today. I think we're pretty close on putting this lease together, or at least proposing something back to Lighthouse. So what I was going to propose was that we have a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the subcommittee, which just includes Gary besides me and Nita. And I was going to see if the Selectmen would be open to that next Tuesday night to do a special meeting, which would probably be an executive session to kind of finish this negotiation on this lease. Do the Selectmen have any opposition to that?
We'll all be in on that, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, yes, that's fine.
Is
Bob?
that December 1st?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, it's okay. What time?
We'll just do a 6 o'clock like we normally do.
Got it.
I just hopefully we'll reach out to Gary to see if he can make it. All right. So, and the attorney will be there as well. So that's it on that. The second thing, I just wanted to give kind of a building update. I've been putting a lot of time into the building to just make sure that, we're kind of have a handle on it, of what's going on over there. Obviously the lease is one thing, but the building itself has been a building that, there's different sections of it. Obviously, some of it needs more attention than others. And obviously, we also didn't budget any funds for, any maintenance on the building. So it has been my very aggressive goal to try to get occupants in that building because it only behooves the town. So we're not spending money on the utilities, and we actually start to make some revenue on the building. So a couple things I just want to make you aware of. So we did get we do have a contract that we did for the heating to make sure that the heating is correct. And I had the heating people in there both Friday and Monday and Monday to make some adjustments to the systems, taking certain sections down to an appropriate level. So we're not using as much energy in the levels that we don't need it, and making sure that anything that's kind of broken is getting fixed because there were things that weren't operating properly. I also had in there over the last 3 weeks, I actually had a company come in and do an energy audit to see if there was any opportunities for savings. I think I talked about this in a prior meeting. I did have a follow-up meeting with the guy, and he was going to get back to me to see. His initial findings didn't seem like there was much that could be done, but we talked a little bit more about some things that I thought were opportunities, such as the exterior lighting. And he was going to get back to me on that to see what opportunities there were for us to do some upgrades that wouldn't necessarily cost the town any money through different programs that Eversource offers. So more to come on that. We do have a couple of leaks in the middle school wing on the roof right now, which is not abnormal. We've had those over the years. I did get a price and approved a repair job, which I hope to have done soon for these three leaks that need to be fixed. So that I'm hoping will be done in the next week or two. I don't know exactly when, but it's not occupied. So thankfully that's not an issue as it relates to anyone being in there that's being affected, but there is definitely a couple of leaks that need to be fixed. There is one toilet that needs to be repaired, which I'm going to kind of hold off on until we have an occupant, but it will need to be fixed if we get an occupant in that middle school section. So we'll just kind of hold off on that for now. And finally, we know the areas that Lighthouse is going to take, and we know that we have a shortfall. We have some extra space. We as a board have already talked about this. We've already agreed that we need to do what we need to do to get it rented. So after kind of discussing it and whatnot, I think I'm going to look to work with a realtor who also has a property management side of their business. The same realtor that we used when we sold Holly Green, we had good results there. They specialize in commercial, and they also have a property management side to their business. So I'm going to look to actually get this property listed so we can start to look at reaching out to certain groups that might have interest in the space, and they have to be educational. So I'm talking about having them reach out to like a Johnson and Wales or a RISD, or like, what types of places that might have interest that need to know that this space exists. So I'm anxious to get this property occupied based on the fact that I don't want the town to have to pay for the space. But I wanted to bring you guys up to speed on that, and then offer an opportunity for any discussion, feedback, or comments or questions on what's happening with the building. And just to end, we did put the RFP out for the 2-story wing, as we had discussed at our last meeting. I did tell the planning and zoning chairman that I was doing that, just to kind of get the ball rolling on that, knowing that we still need to go through the 824 with planning and zoning. Certainly we won't award anything if anything does come in, but at least it gets the ball rolling on that side. If we're able to find anybody interested in the 2-story wing in education, if we're not able to do that through our own process, that might be something we look to enlist the help of an agent or something on as well. So, questions or feedback? Yes, Bob.
So I think in that meeting on Tuesday, so what we want as a town, I guess now, is that we had both buildings fully with tenants in both buildings, correct? And Gary and Nina brought some of these things up, and he does this at Pfizer. Parking situations, number of parking spaces, entrances. I think about a tenant in the 2-story building. When it was students, they would just park in the main lot, go through the main door, go by the main office where administration was, and walk down by the media center, go up to the stairs in 2-story building. If you got another company in there, where do they park? Where they go through? What's the bathroom situation? I know we haven't in the subcommittee, have we done any studies on that building as a whole? And if it had multiple tenants, how it all would work as far as bathroom use, parking space, egress, and so on?
Well, there's plenty of parking available there, and there's plenty of facilities available and an elevator. It's a really great spot for occupancy.
But Mike, it still has to be spelled out, because so this business requires maybe 6 spaces for administration and 3 spaces for visitors. This company might be larger, the 2-story wing, and they might need 25 spaces for employees and 10 spaces for visitors. So how do we, there's gonna have to be signage. There'll be a determination on who gets what. When you enter the building, signage on where to go. I know a lot of facilities that have multi-tenants have almost like reception areas in front of each area. That looking at that whole envelope, that whole picture has to be considered before we have it fully leased out by multiple tenants.
Oh yeah, no question. I think as we're doing with Lighthouse, as we have one group who's interested, and we're vetting all those things out. And I think if we either work with a property manager to make sure those are vetted out properly, or we work them out as we get, interested parties, we can certainly assign how many parking spaces would be available. And, zoning has that all determined anyway. We're not reinventing the wheel on anything like that. If somebody wants to put signage up, it has to go through a process. And then anything interior, we'd want to make sure that, was worked with us. I think there's an interesting layer to having somebody potentially manage this. The town doesn't, I think part of the pushback on this in the first place was the town doesn't want to be in the business of renting out properties. That's not something we don't have the staff to do that. I mean, like right now, I'm taking the lead personally on trying to make sure that we're getting this done because it's important to me. I know it's important to the town to be good stewards of the town's dollar. And, you know, every time we're heating a space or leaving a light on, it's a concern to me. But if we end up with, you know, the possibility of having somebody manage that for us, I think that's potentially attractive. And may make a lot of sense for the town to make sure that, you know, we are crossing those T's and dotting those I's. You know, none of us have time to be, you know, it's like a, you know, kind of like almost like a full-time job to make sure that's all being done right. So that's why I'm looking to do this this way to make sure that we are able to do it. I think with Gary working with us on the kind of the big picture with this major tenant that we have, I think has been very helpful. It has probably opened up some things we may not have thought to look at, Bob. So I think as we've kind of gone through this process, it'll make us alert for future discussions.
A question. We spoke about this briefly. So I had been asked, as you know, about you posted the last, I think it was last Friday, the Friday before, the posted about the signage and the name change. Is that have to be an official name change? Is that something that you can just decide as a first selectman, or should that be something that the board of selectmen should discuss and change? Is it officially, is it just temporary name? Did it have something to do with the changing the voting space? Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, so the reason we had to make a quick change basically there was because of the fact that we had to move voting, if you remember, and it had to be done basically immediately. The decision just had to be made based on the COVID situation, the timetables coming from the state. I think it was in advance of the primary. And so, you know, I talked with a couple of people around town hall, and we said, okay, well, it's too difficult to call this the old middle high school. It's confusing, you know, when people get there, they're going to know where they're going. And so we said, well, let's, because we had to send out a mailer for it as well. If you remember, we actually sent a post mailer out to everybody to explain to them where this was happening. So that decision was just made here at the town hall to change it to the education center based on what was going in there. It seemed to make a lot of sense. We have basically got guidance from the library board that they only wanted to see education stuff in there. So I think the space I think the name makes a lot of sense for what it was. And that, you know, I don't think it really matters as far as any other process that would have to go through. If you have a different idea for a name, you can certainly bring it up. I'm not sure what else would make more sense, but we could talk about it if you wanted to.
I don't have a nomination for a name. No, and I go by the Wesley Education Center all the time, and basically and that's a multi-purpose educational center with multiple tenants. So the name makes sense to me. It was more the process, and we've had this discussion in the past where I'm asked about something, I said I don't know. So I think you've talked about a little bit about the first selectman's role versus the selectman's role, and I think I asked you, and not tonight, but I think I asked you down the road, made sure to try to explain a little bit more to people that they don't understand that we're not involved in a day-to-day basis of every little thing that goes on in town. However, there's things around town that we need to be involved in. So I think that's sometimes confusing. So when I'm asked a question, and the answer is I don't know, you'll have to call Mike. It almost seems to me as a selectman to feel like I'm not in the know, so I'm not doing my job. And that's a lot. If you understand what I'm trying to say. So
I do. I think we need to do a better job of that, so people do understand that. I mean, it's out there. It's for people can read the jobs of what the Board of Selectmen's in charge of and what the first selectman's in charge of. And I'm in charge of the day-to-day. I mean, I can't talk to you guys outside of a meeting. We don't have that ability. And often, if we do talk quickly, it's, check on if you're available for a meeting or whatever. But I mean, that's illegal. So, we don't have those conversations except in meetings, and the people elect a first selectman to make those decisions on the day-to-day stuff. And that's what I have to do. So on something like that, not a big thing if you ask me, but I know certain things are more important to people than other things. And I do try to bring things forward that I think would be people would care about, especially things that you guys would want to talk about. And I try to bring everything forward, really, everything that I possibly can. You both get copies of every check that's written. It's all on OpenGov. We try to be transparent in everything we do, but it's a good point, Bob. And I think we all need to do a better job of communicating that going forward. Like, the selectmen's job is really oversight and policy. And those are the things we do. And, even things like tonight, I've got the time capsule thing on there. I thought, well, the selectmen would like to know about that. That's interesting. And I've been trying to do more of that, trying to bring more things forward that perhaps I wouldn't have at the beginning. And I also think, not to get off topic a little bit, but, it's been crazy for the last 3 years. It seems like it's always something that's just crazy going on. So, to just be able to kind of take stock in it. And so, point well taken. As far as this is concerned, with regards to the agenda item, I think we've got a good name on the building, and I think we've got a good direction. It's just we need to move pretty expeditiously on trying to get people in there so that we're not caught in the dead of winter footing the entire bill here. And that's kind of my goal, is to try to get some people in here. So, Nita, do you have any more questions or comments on the agenda item? I do see a hand up. I think that might be Gary. Go ahead, Gary. You just have to unmute. *6, yeah, if you're on the phone. Yep.
You got me now?
Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry to bother you, and that won't be long. Somewhere in that repurposing committee, I went out and counted all the spaces at the school. I forget what the number is, but it's a finite number. And I suggest we approach this wisely, first understanding what the superintendent and their staff are going to need, and then subtract that from the total. And then you take your total rentable square feet that we would rent to a tenant, and people get pro rata share depending on how many square feet they rent. But if you leave this sort of open-ended, thinking you've got plenty of parking capacity, and you end up short, you're in a bad place. Just to watch out for you. I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I don't think that we think that there's plenty of parking for everybody. I think there's also the concern that we have voting there now, and that that has to be a known factor for anyone who is renting there, that there's going to be a couple of days during the year that parking lot's going to be full, and they have to just resign themselves to that if they're going to rent there. So I think all that will be considered and discussed, and certainly appreciate the feedback on that. Thank you for your comment. Oh, Gary, while you're on there, I didn't realize you were on the line. Would you be available for that meeting next Tuesday night, the subcommittee, or with the selectmen to look at the lease? 6 p.m. Gary, I saw you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Now you're muted. There you are.
There, sorry,
Yes.
I was double muted. Yeah, no problem. I already looked at my calendar. All good. I'll be there.
All right,
Or
cool.
I'll call in.
Yep,
Yep.
we'll get you on. Yep, we'll get you on there. Thank you. Go ahead, Brett.
Regarding the leasing or listing the middle school, high school, isn't that something that should potentially go out to bid for the realtor? Because I can tell you from seeing what happened at Holly Green, the only reason that unit sold was the Holly Green bookkeeper let one of the existing property owners know about it finally. And that's how it went through. And I'm a little concerned about not putting the realtor out to bid, because I know he is a member of your private business's BNI group, and he does not do that much in North Stonington. I think that we should try to utilize someone that does more in North Stonington and can really market it, if that's the approach. But
Right,
that probably
I'm gonna.
bid.
I appreciate your
urge the
comment.
other selectmen to
Yeah, I
look into
appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate the comment. I just want to get this done fairly quickly, and I understand that we could certainly bid out something like this. There's not a ton of companies that also do property management, and that's something that this company does do. I have no vested interest necessarily in any particular company. In fact, I don't mind that there's somebody from outside of North Stonington doing it, because otherwise then it gets into, why didn't you pick this one from North Stonington or that one? I just want to get it listed and just try to get somebody in there. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking to do, and that's what I'm planning on doing. And I would like support from the Board of Selectmen to do that, so that it's pretty clear on the push here. We are up against the weather, and the sooner we can get people in there, again, the sooner we're not having to pay all the bills in that side of the building. So, any other comments? All right, so if I could have a motion to, if I could get a motion to empower the first selectman to look to list the space within the middle school that is not being considered by Lighthouse.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Next up on the agenda is the ethics policy review. Bob has been kind enough to have offered to take the lead on that. And I know that that's been ongoing. And I think, Bob, you can give an update. I just want to mention there was a recent letter to the editor that had gone in, kind of bringing light to the slim ethics policy we have here at town. And I did send a response to that to the newspaper. I thought it was really important to do so. It's not a small issue to send a letter to the editor questioning ethics in a town. I think it was personally, I kind of took it a little bit personally. Certainly my response wasn't that way, but I think we work really hard as a group to try to do the right thing all the time. And I think we can do better on the ethics policy. I mean, I think that's why we took it up, and we've had 2 meetings where we discussed it already. But I just want to assure the public, anyone who's on here, we try to do everything above board. We do things that weren't done prior to us being here. I think we try to go the extra mile to be transparent and communicative. So, we'll continue to try to do all that. And with that, Bob, I know you probably haven't had too much time to delve into this, but maybe you want to give some sort of update as to where things are at.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So first of all, I apologize for this not being done yet. It's important. I need to make sure it's going to be done right. So I have taken more time than I should have. But so what I did was I looked at all the area towns, first of all, to see we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to look and see what other towns are doing. And I won't mention towns by name because some towns do a better job than others, and I won't give anybody any bad publicity. But there is, of the 7 towns, with us being one, I will say this: ours is the worst of the 7 towns as far as the amount of content. It's not that it's a bad ethics code of ethics policy, but it's just there's no content to it. The only piece, it's a 1-page, 1-paragraph code of ethics that strictly deals with financial gain, whether it be by an employee, an appointed or an elected official in their family. So that's pretty much all it covers. So when I started looking at some of the other towns, and actually Carolyn Howell sent me some towns, and she turned me on to this thing called eCode 360, and it's a website that makes policy. I don't think, and it's not free, but as I looked at the towns and the code of ethics policies, I noticed that 2 or 3 of them use this company, and it's amazing how similar, all but one town, everything's laid out exactly the same way. So it always starts with what is the overall statement of the policy, and then it breaks it up into different categories like declaration of policy, application, designation, gifts. There's a glossary of terms, and they all seem to be exactly in the same order. And the glossary of terms, it explains, well, what is a gift? You know, what is this? What is that? And as I look at them all, they're all laid out perfectly the same. They sometimes have different headings on different paragraphs, but it was almost like changed a little bit just so someone didn't think they copied somebody else's. But the wording is so close. Sometimes sentences are exactly the same. So I'm thinking you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can just take these policies and as I go through them, take the best parts and create our own policy. There's different, like some towns, anything over $50 is illegal. In other towns, at $150, in other towns, $200. So that would be something we'll discuss as a board of what is a cash or monetary gift. Another big thing was they all but one had some sort of ethics commission set up. And the commission was mostly made up of non-elected or appointed officials. So there's no, and so you couldn't be an official on a board or committee, and you couldn't have a spouse or a family member on a board or committee. And there was 2 of them, I think, that had 5 active members and 3 alternates, and one had 3 active members and 3 alternates. And they use the same rules that we do in town, that it can't be dominated by one political party. So on the one that was 5, it couldn't be more than 3 of one party than 2 of the other party. And then that group would meet when a breach of the code of ethics was brought up to them. And 2 towns actually had code of ethics applications to turn into the code of ethics chair, say, this is what I'm complaining of, this is what I want you to review. And I'm looking at those, I think we can come up with something like that. So I think the goal is to rewrite the code of ethics, which I will do and bring it in front of the Board of Selectmen. Talk about setting up some sort of an ethics commission. If we can get volunteers to work on it. They're not going to meet all the time. It might be only as needed. And then once we've done that, then we can publish our own new code of ethics. And I think that's what the town needs to do. Bill Ricker sent me an email of a webinar I think he went to on ethics at a meeting. Now we've had situations sometimes where there'd be a in-live meeting, in-person meeting before COVID, or a Zoom meeting after COVID, where maybe somebody's conduct wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. So we could stress what is proper conduct during a Board of Selectmen, I mean a town meeting, whether it be on Zoom or in public. How long does a speaker speak? If someone does not follow the code of ethics guidelines, then how is it handled? I mean, it needs to be handled the same way each time. These code of ethics talked about penalties for board members or town officials that break a code of ethics and are found guilty of breaking one of the codes in the ethics, and that, and then from a monetary to like a civil penalty of $250, which we have now. It could be suspension from a board. If it's a paid position, be suspended without pay. But those are the kind of things that would be in this code. So there'd be no questions asked. And then it would be the determination of this ethics commission to determine what the penalty was. And we can say, is that something that necessarily has to go back to the selectmen, or something that the commission can decide on their own, and we abide by their findings? But there's a lot to it, but luckily a lot of it's already been laid out by other towns. And if we use the best of what each town did and we come up with our own, and I think if we can get that in place no later than the first of the year, I think we'll be in good shape going forward. But what we have now was just something that was put together years ago, and it only covers a small portion of what ethics mean to a town. So that's all I have for now.
Nita, do you have any feedback or?
No, just that I think that's a lot you have already, and a good way to approach it, I think. It sounds very good.
Yeah, thank you for the work you've done on it so far, Bob. It is very important, and obviously something that wasn't necessarily on our radar, but I think will set us up for success in the future. Is there any public comment on the topic? Yes, Brett.
It's timely, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we're talking about the ethics commission and ethics rules. and I understand your need to move the middle school building and rental faster, but even disclosing your personal relationship with the realtor that you're choosing without putting out to bid would have been the right thing to do. I really have a hard time that you guys are talking about a code of ethics, yet all three of you voted to move a listing of the middle school to only one realtor without talking to anybody, especially talking to any of the realtors in town. And I understand the property management side, but it's a direct conflict of interest when someone is a member of a BNI group in their personal business. And that's what BNI is for, referring and sharing business with a small group of people. And that's what's happening here. So how do we talk about ethics in moving forward when the full board just violated? And
Brett, how many realtors do you know?
I couldn't even count them.
Okay. I know probably at least 30 realtors very well. The only reason, and certainly I disclose that I know this realtor, and I am in a networking group, and that's fine. And I'm in a lot of different networking groups with different people and know a lot of different people. And I don't want to get off topic with this, but I certainly know a lot of people, have personal relationships with a lot of people. The only reason I thought of this company was because they have a property management group, as I said, and the fact is that they did successfully sell another property for us. So, that was the reasoning. Do you have any other comments on the ethics policy topic that we're talking about?
No, I think it'd be great to move forward because I do think the basis of Carolyn's letter to the editor was accurate, and we do need to have that written. So I give credit to Bob for putting so much time and research into this, and I do look forward to that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other comments from the public on the ethics policy review? Okay. Hearing none, we'll look forward to your next update on that, Bob. Thank you very much again for doing that. The following item is agenda item number 9, budget process timeline and discussion. We had a meeting last night about this topic. I thought it went very well. I don't know if we want to discuss I know Christine had done already had penciled in some dates and whatnot, so I don't know where we want to take this topic, but any thoughts about last night's meeting? Or Christine, I don't know if there's anything you want to update, or Nita, since you kind of drove the discussion, any thoughts?
I was actually very pleased at how the meeting went. I thought in general that people were very open to what we were talking about. I think it kind of cooled everything down in terms of how we're going to do things. And I think that these first dates that we have here on this sheet make a lot of good sense. And Christine has already sent it out to the other people so they can look at it.
No. We said we were going to talk about it tonight.
Oh, that's, sorry about that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, sorry. So I think that if we want to take a quick look at it, and Christine can lead it more than me on this, then maybe we should vote on that we want to take it forward.
Yeah, so this is just the summary of the dates that we discussed last night. So the thought was to get things on paper and then get the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance on board for the timeline. The Board of Finance is going to meet on December 2nd to talk about specifics for the budget as far as what they'll be looking for information from all of the boards, commissions, departments, and areas within the town that are requesting funds. They've talked about potentially having specific questions that need to be addressed. So I'm going to work with them to nail down what those questions are. But we would like to get communication out on Monday to everyone so that they know they need to start working on their budgets. They need to have budget discussions in December at board meetings so that they can have everything. If they need to approve it, they can have it approved for that January 8th deadline that we talked about. So if the Board of Selectmen is okay with it, I would like to send this draft out to the chairs of the Board of Finance and the Board of Education tomorrow so they can circulate it for their next meetings.
I move that we do that.
I agree. A second.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on that communication? And yes, go ahead, Bob.
So if a board, so because we're going into the holiday season, a lot of the boards will have one meeting in early December. They may not have a second one because of it being December. They might have issues getting back to us on January 8th. Only because they have to, as a board, have discussion and vote themselves on a budget before they can turn it over to the Board of Selectmen. So if a board comes, I know last night the Board of Education Chair asked for a 2-week, additional 2 weeks to get theirs in line. If another board comes to you after they get this letter and says, we need more time, are we in a position that we can give them more time to get together with their boards?
I think I looked at the calendar when I threw out that January 8th as a very intentional date. The majority of the boards that are gonna need to vote on their budgets meet the first week of the month. So that gives them the opportunity to have their budget. They can have a meeting in December to discuss. They can fine tune it and then approve it that meeting in January. For the Board of Selectmen to be able to start discussing the budget on January 12th and making any changes they might want to make to people that aren't doing presentations, you would need to have everything in by that date.
I should have known you would have been accurate on your dates.
Tight time frame, but it works. And I think I'm hoping, knock on wood, this year, we've had all the right intentions the last 3 years, but between the snow one year and the COVID this year and the revote on the school the prior year, we kind of got thrown off. Yet we still successfully got the budget passed, but it just took a little longer than we would have liked. I think this year hopefully will be the year that we get it done early. So yeah. All right, so there was a motion and a second, and do have a public comment.
I would just also mention that we don't have yet in here all of the things we talked, just so everybody knows, that we talked about last night. We have other things that we talked about with regards to how we are going to bring people together in order to have a look at the budget earlier on and so forth. So, I mean, I think some of those things need to be added in once we get going on this. And also the idea of sort of an extra forum, so to speak, where other people where people can look at the budget early on too. That was something that I think we really want to do, and maybe have people joining us in virtual meetings.
Yeah, we've done pretty well with those. The virtual meetings have been a big hit, so we'll add to that schedule. So, I think the vote was just to send the communication out.
Right, exactly.
Why don't we just finish that vote up, and I'll just get the open up for comment, because we do have a comment and we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was just gonna say basically what Nita said. When you lay this out and you put your timeline together, can we add enough time that we can make sure people feel included and have the opportunity to be heard and vote on the thing? That's all. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. And that's what we talked about last night, Gary. I'm not sure if you were on the meeting. I don't think you were. But we actually added in 2 extra communications for people, even prior to the budget process, really. And then kind of right after Board of Finance hears it, we're going to have more opportunity for public feedback, which we all felt was very, very important to making sure we get a good budget that folks can get behind in front of the voters. And I'll just end with the fact that, I can't see a situation like last year where we aren't able to vote on it. I think we'll end up being able to vote on the budget. I don't think the governor would have to do an order like he did last year. This year, rather, just, because now we have a better hand. Hopefully by then we'll have a much better handle on COVID. And now we kind of know what we're dealing with. It was pretty unprecedented earlier this year. So, we should be able to get to a vote for the people to vote on it, which is ideal for everybody. It's what we much prefer, so. Okay, if nothing else, yep, I see another comment here. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think that's one big important thing for the taxpayer in town is once the budget's been set for the people to review it and really give their feedback on it. And because I think everybody knows it really burned me when last year's how it was, they changed the budget a little and we never got a chance to give the feedback and it was voted in. That's just my comment because I've been eating that all year. We
Thanks,
need to be able
Brian.
to give review it and give the feedback to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen.
Yep, I mean, that's what we want to do. Thank you for your comment. We were kind of held to the governor's orders this past, it was a very difficult position for all board members to be put in. And none of us were, myself, probably more than any, were not treated very kindly by the public on it. And certainly just doing our civic duty by following the governor's orders. So, and watching out for people's public safety. Okay, any other comments? All right, next up, minutes.
So you want to do it, Mike?
I have a couple of amendments, so
Okay, go ahead.
maybe I just mentioned that. Well, they're actually on the November 10th meeting, so I don't know if you want to do the 26th
Yeah.
one.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the Zoom meeting on October 26, 2020. It was a 1 o'clock meeting, respectfully submitted by Bailey.
Seconded.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On number 4 on November 10th meeting, I just would add a little bit more to item number A. Selectman Ergo led the discussion about proposed installation of speed humps in the village. Speed humps are different than speed bumps. So that would be my amendment. I just want to make sure anyone who reads it is clear. I think that's a really important distinction for people to understand. I don't need to go into specifics, but at least they understand they're different. And then an agenda item on number 8A, I would just add a period after regarding grant opportunities. I would scratch off for a new electric truck. As I recall, I was just suggesting that the grant writer was paying dividends for the town regarding the grant opportunities, not just that grant opportunity. So I would just scratch for a new electric truck.
There's also 2 number 8s.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too.
Okay, so 7, 8. So then we just have to change the numbers. So it would be, yeah, so that would actually end up being that would be number 9, and then it would just go consecutively number wise down the list. So we'd end up with agenda item number 14.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd motion to approve with those amendments.
Yeah.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn?
No,
We
no.
added
the
another- we added something more.
Oh,
Holiday preparation.
thank you for remembering.
Yeah,
Not written down.
Rich.
We were all ready for you. Well, I was just asking, are we going to have a Christmas tree at the Village Green? I'm asking because this next week, heaven forbid me, is all of the wreaths getting decorated and put out in the town by the garden club. And we were just wondering if there would be a tree.
I think we should definitely have a tree in the Village Green. And what I have done the last 2 years, I think, we've been so kind to have somebody who used to have a tree farm in town who's donated a tree to us. And I could certainly reach out to them again to see if they have a tree, if they would be willing. And I think we should definitely have a tree. I mean, there's no reason not to have a tree.
Good. That's all I wanted to know.
Mike, did you want to talk about the Santa and the light parade, since we're talking about holiday?
Yeah, that's why I kind of formed it that way. I figured if there was other things to talk about on that, there is, it looks like there's going to be a light parade, just like the Halloween light parade. And it's going to be another Christmas parade. And I am proud to say that I'm going to participate in this one. I'm going to decorate the Jeep and get a float going, and I'll be in it myself. I'm excited about that. And that'll also be in conjunction with the fire company who does the Santa, so I think it's an exciting, different thing to look forward to. It's on December 12th. So, I think that, I think it's something for the town to look forward to in these times that are a little bit different. So I think we'll spread some joy around town, and really thankful to the fire company for continuing to move with this tradition, and thankful to Jen Strunk, who's on economic development, but is kind of a passion for doing these parades now, which is really cool. So that's about it. I think the tree lighting is not going to happen this year. So folks should just be aware of that, the way that it had in the past. I don't know if there might be some virtual thing that takes place in its place, but not really appropriate to have a gathering like that, unfortunately. But I think there's some different things that could be done to celebrate this year. So, any other questions or comments on holiday celebrations? I do see one comment up, one hand up. I don't know if it's about that or not, but go ahead. And I see it's Beth, who I allowed to talk. Promote to panelist. I have to promote her to a panelist, which I'll do because I can't have her talk for some reason regularly. Beth, we see you. Sorry. Just have to unmute yourself. You have a comment?
Get ready for that. Actually, I was just raising my hand to make sure. I missed the beginning of the meeting when my agenda item was up. Sorry about that. But I was hoping that I might be able to insert late.
Mom, look in here.
Well, you're all set. You were going to send you to the Hewitt Farm Committee. The Board of Selectmen was in favor of your idea.
Great,
then,
thank you guys.
Look at this.
Hewitt Farm meets every third Monday. So if you just want to connect with them, they'll help you to figure out a good spot for doing this.
Okay.
And you're all set.
Okay, and let me just tell her that we have one this coming Monday. If you want to make connection with the Hewitt Farm Committee, which I also.
Oh, great.
So I can
Perfect.
put you on the agenda, and you obviously know how to do virtual meetings. Is that right? It looks like you do.
Yeah. Usually I don't do them on this complex system of computers that my kids have rigged in one of their bedrooms, but at an actual table.
It was me. I rigged it.
But
the meeting's at 4:30, I think. Is it 4:30, Nita, on Monday?
4:30 on Monday. And maybe we can get your phone number and we can see how we put it together, okay?
I have Beth's email. I'll shoot you guys both an email so you guys can connect.
thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Well, is that showing you on the
All right, thanks, Beth.
If I know it's just the scouts putting the stuff together, but if we want to make it a town thing, that's possible too. So if there are others that want to get involved with it, we would be happy to include other things that people want to put in.
Cool.
I don't know if that's through you or through the Hewitt Farm, but however that works, we're happy to be inclusive with it.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you for popping on here. And we'll connect you. I'll send an email after the meeting to connect you guys.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Okay. Motion to adjourn, anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.